guys, Carmen here. Welcome back for those of you who follow me and already know who I am. And for those of you who maybe I am new to, my name's Carmen. I am a myofunctional therapist and I have a large global practice. And I also am your educator extraordinaire. So this is what I do every week, all the time, this same time. I'm talking about things that are important to you. So today we're going to be talking about who to get on your team. And many of you know that I'm fresh off of a continuing ed trip to Nashville. And so anytime I do this kind of stuff, I come back and my mind is just blown of things that I need to share with you. So let's get ready to jump on into what we are going to talk about. So again, who to get on your team. So first, I'm going to talk about what is a comprehensive health team, why it's important, and then how do you find these people. So first, let's talk about that. That comprehensive health team, how are you going to build it? This was a fun graphic that I was making yesterday for this presentation. And also I have had some providers, some doctors around the US and some other countries where they're saying, can you give me a map of what my clients need to do? Because I have had some doctors that, I give them a referral form and so it'll have the steps, but they wanted something that was a little bit of a graphic. And really there should really be a lot more arrows here because some of these, would be referring back or, myofunctional therapy might refer to orthotropic orthodontists who then at some point will refer back to a myofunctional therapist. But that would have made it way too busy. So this just tells you a little bit that this is a big thing. So let's talk about some of these different areas that we need to address when somebody has myofunctional impairment, and then the people that I would be sending them to. Now, remember, I made this for you off the top of my head. I haven't spent weeks creating a list, so if I've missed something, I'm sure at some point that I'm going to discover it. But this is a lot. So first, let's talk about who you might need for nasal clearing. So this would be, basically, that's a fancy way of saying, can you breathe through your nose? Do you have issues that need to be addressed? And those would be somebody like an ENT, who I would refer for soft tissue evaluation. It could be a pulmonologist. It can be your myofunctional therapist, a breathing reeducation trainer. It can be an allergist. One of the biggest challenges really that I have run into so far as allergies is so many of you have chronic congestion, and that can come from mouth breathing, of course. But it also can come from allergies. It can come from inflammation. So I have shared with you before that my nutritionist years ago taught me that gluten, alcohol, sugar, and dairy are the 4 biggest inflammatory causing agents. So if I'm trying to work with somebody and get them so that they can breathe through their nose, because they're mouth breathing, they have this vicious cycle. But if they're allergic to dairy and they're not dairy free, that's going to really make us be spinning our wheels. So it's important that we get all hands on deck when it comes to the breathing point, because the bottom line is, you guys, I can't do anything for you if I can't get you breathing through your nose. So that's very often where I will refer you to the ENT to let them, figure out why it is that you can't breathe. You might have swollen turbinates. You could have polyps. You could have, oh my gosh, tumors worse, it can be a deviated septum. Many of you come to me and you have ignored the advice to have your deviated septum fixed a long time ago. And then I'm kind of the one saying, you got to do that. Okay, so next would be orofacial muscle balance and tone. So this could be being referred to, again, a myofunctional therapist or somebody who is a myofunctional focused orthodontist. Undoing damage. So that could be a general physician, a pedodontist, so a child dentist, an orthodontist, a myofunctional therapist. When I talk about orthodontists, I'm always talking about those orthotropic, those face forward, they call it forwardontics. The people who understand myofunctional impairment, who understand the importance of tongue position, who understand the importance of nasal breathing, not a traditional conventional orthodontist. And God forbid, if they want to pull teeth out of your face, say no. Do not let them. You pull teeth out of a small mouth, you make a smaller mouth. Next, it might be posture. So that could be chiropractor, physical therapy, osteopath. One thing that I did learn in Nashville, you guys, was the huge role of physical therapy as far as the connective tissue, as far as the fascial network, and how those physical therapists are working in conjunction with somebody like me, somebody like, with all of these other doctors. And it was fascinating. So that was an area that I didn't realize. When I think of physical therapy, I think of somebody who's been hurt in a car accident or who had surgery, that type of stuff. What about your breathing dynamics? So again, this could be a myofunctional therapist. It could be a physical therapist. It can be a breathing physiologist. Cranial balance. So these, again, are people we're talking about that might be on your team. That can be an osteopath, a craniosacral therapist, or a sacral occipital therapy, so I did some research on this because obviously that is not a word I use every day. And from what I researched is it's a more gentle chiropractic release. So if you want to know more about that, you can look that up. Nutrition. This is an area many of you don't pay attention to or think that it's important, but some team members from this would be a dental hygienist. So like for me, as a dental hygienist, I've had years of nutritional counseling, that kind of stuff, because as a hygienist, we have to be able to do nutritional counseling with clients. So a lot of people don't know that. So again, it could be a hygienist, it could be a nutritionist, dietitian, then that allergist. So if you're sensitive to things, if you're eating things that maybe aren't an anaphylactic type of response, but maybe you're just really sensitive to them, an allergist is going to be an important piece of the puzzle. What I don't want when it comes to an allergist, working on my, with my clients, I don't want to just medicate. I want to try and figure out the problem. And so sometimes my clients do have to medicate a little bit so that we can get that nasal clearing, so that we can work on developing that habit of nasal breathing. But I don't want them on pills long term. Many of you guys know this. I used to take 4 allergy pills and now I take none. So that's pretty amazing. But my goal always is to get clients off of the pills. The other thing when I'm dealing with my clients is I don't want them medicating because they're being ding-dongs. And what I mean by that is if you're allergic to Fluffy and Fluffy sleeps on your shoulder at night, then Fluffy's going to have to get out of the bedroom, because if you want me to help you, if you want to pay me for my services, but you don't want to get the cat out of the bedroom, and it's causing you to, be stuffy, then that, to me, that makes no sense. But you would be surprised at how often it happens. The sleep members of the team. So this might be an ENT, a sleep physician, an airway dentist, a myofunctional therapist. So we all work together. This is one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle. The bottom line is, if you're not sleeping well, we have to get to the bottom of that. Chewing and swallowing, again, so team members here might be myofunctional therapists, occupational therapists, and speech language pathologists. And then speech would be myofunctional therapists, which, let me just clarify, this speech therapy is not our lane of travel. I know I meet a lot of people who come to me and they say that their myofunctional therapist has been doing speech therapy with them. So that's not how I do it, because I don't want to dance on somebody else's dance floor. And the other thing is I don't want to shortchange my clients. So I'm not doing anything that I'm not an expert at. How myofunctional therapy ends up in this role right here is because I help my clients have the strength and the coordination and the tongue placement, which then sets them up for success when I refer them to a speech language pathologist. So that tells you just a little bit about the difference there. Okay, so all of that sounds complicated, right? You're thinking, some of these people I've never even heard of, and how do I contact these people? Where do I find them? What do I do? So first, I have talked about this for a long time. I feel like at the hub of that wheel is the myofunctional evaluation. And so when you find your person, they're going to do an integrative health assessment. So that's just me digging deep for all the things that could be wrong with you. So I'm not only looking for a tongue tie, I'm not only looking for sleep quality. I'm looking at a lot of different things. We're going to address compensation, structure, function, and behavior, those things. So when I do an exam with somebody, then we're talking about those team members. So even more so now than ever, I feel like there's times where if somebody has sleep problems, we're not overlooking that. You've got to get a referral and talk to that doctor, because there has been so much research and so many changes in the area of sleep medicine that some people who really aren't even, they don't have a lot of the big red flags for sleep apnea, they're getting diagnosed with it. So a large, left turn that I've been taking or plan on taking in my practice is making sure that if you have sleep concerns that you are going to have to see your doctor, because that's a piece of the puzzle we don't want to miss. And part of developing an organized plan is me telling you or helping you find those people and where you have to go and when, to make sure that we do everything in order. If I tell you you have an airway concern and we need to talk about airway management and sleep, and that might be some expansion ortho, those type of things, I have to get you headed in the right direction to those people, because say you have a tongue tie, it matters when you have a frenectomy based on if you have an appliance in the roof of your mouth that's going to mess up what I'm doing. So if we do it wrong, then it really messes up what I'm doing. So that's part of the detailed plan. So the possible referrals could be sleep management, could be repatterning with breathing. And so that's something that I do. Myofunctional therapy, obviously me. Tethered oral tissue screening, that's me. Posture training, osteopathy, cranial sacral therapy. I always encourage body work. I understand that a lot of you, if you're my community and you're around the world, this is going to be harder for you. So I always say, find what you can do, find what you can afford. Body work is going to be physical therapy. It can be myofascial work. I'm a connective tissue coach, and I do a Rossiter type of training or release, I guess I should say, but that doesn't help anybody online. So it just depends on where you're at. You could need some nutritional counseling, behavior modification. Again, that kind of falls in what I do. So really, you're here. And if you look at all of this stuff, the thing I want you just to take away from this is start with your comprehensive myofunctional assessment. We're going to look at myofunctional impairment. We're going to figure out whether you have a tie or not. If you have a tie and it needs to, you need to have a frenectomy, then we have a plan for that. If you have breathing issues, all of these things, we're going to get a plan together and get you headed in the right direction. So this isn't as simple as you would think it to be. Now, some people like to do some research first. So go to the bottom of any one of my blogs and download my assessment tool. It's going to walk you through 25 of the most common questions that we're going to dive into during your comprehensive exam. Let me put the link up here so you can get those. So like I said, at the bottom of any one of my blogs, or at least my most recent blogs, if you go back into anything last year or before that, you're not going to find it there. So do something recent. Plus, on Wednesdays, my new blogs come out. So today's blog was, Am I Too Old for Myofunctional Therapy? So maybe you're interested in that. So do the free assessment. Then your next step is going to be to get your exam done. So that assessment doesn't cost you anything, but if you download the assessment tool, then book a free 30-minute assessment with me. That's going to give us a chance to talk about whether you need the exam. If any of this stuff resonates with you, I'm telling you, you're going to need an exam. If you exhibit anything that supports myofunctional impairment, it's going to make sense that you move on to the exam. I always want to have a chance to meet you and let you see what it's like to do teletherapy, and then because I wouldn't want you to pay for an exam and then me tell you that you're fine, but that's never happened. And then, next week, we're going to be talking about why the silo mentality is harmful for your health. So again, I'm going to be building on this comprehensive team stuff, what you should be doing. I don't want you just thinking, do I have a tongue tie? I'm fine. my teeth are straight and beautiful, but I snore like a freight train, I'm not going to do anything about it. So I definitely do not want you to see that or to do that. Another thing here, I recently did a webinar on being a vital, healthy person where I really dive into 6 areas, and this stuff all connects. So maybe you want to watch that. You can watch that replay here. I told you what we're going to talk about next week, and we are growing. I have the goodness, I'm drawing a blank. I have the Tongue Tie and Myofunctional Therapy support group. So that's not just me. That's a lot of other providers, other myofunctional therapists. People ask questions. You can get some great advice there. Find us on YouTube. If you find anything that you like or you want to share it with somebody else, absolutely do that, because that helps this important information get out there. You guys are wonderful. I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now.